I'd served Rafe Corvetti's brother drinks maybe half a dozen times in my few weeks at the Glass House. But I'd never met the man himself, so when his security guard escorted me past the bar and up the private stairs, I knew this wasn't about a spilled martini. The office was all dark wood and leather, immaculate, quiet, and built to intimidate. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, but the blinds were half-drawn, cutting the light into sharp angles across the desk. Rafe Corvetti sat behind that desk like a judge behind a bench. He didn't look up when I entered, just kept reading whatever was in the manila folder spread open in front of him, one hand loosely holding a pen, the other resting flat on the polished surface. The security guard who'd brought me up, silent, efficient, closed the door and took a position beside it. I stood there, heart hammering, trying to remember how to breathe like a normal person. "Sit down, Miss Keller." His voice was quieter than I'd expected, controlled, the kind of voice that didn't need volume because everyone already knew to listen. I sat. He still didn't look at me, just turned a page in the folder, and I caught a glimpse of what looked like a still frame from a film. My film. The short I'd directed last spring for my advanced production class at Lockhart. My stomach dropped. "You're a student at Lockhart Conservatory," he said. Not a question. Second-year MFA track, focus in directing and performance. You produced a short film called The Glass Rehearsal that screened at 3 student festivals and won an Audience Choice Award at NYU's Spring Showcase. He finally looked up. I'd seen dangerous men before, professors who could destroy your career with one bad review, directors who saw you as a body to move around their set, not a person. But Rafe Corvetti wasn't performing danger. He just was it. Dark eyes, calm control, a presence that didn't need theatrics to feel lethal. His clothes were perfectly put together, but it was his stillness that made my chest tighten. "It's a good film," he continued. "Strong performances. Interesting use of space. Unfortunately, you shot several key scenes in a building you didn't have permission to use. The Bethel Theater on East 6th. I swallowed. We had verbal permission from the building manager, who didn't have authority to grant it. He tapped the folder. "The property is owned by Meridian Holdings, which is a subsidiary of Corvetti Properties. And the song you used in your opening sequence, licensed through a music house that shares ownership with 3 other companies, all of which trace back to businesses my family controls." The room felt smaller suddenly, hotter. "I didn't know," I said, and hated how small my voice sounded. "I believe you." He closed the folder. "But intention doesn't change liability. Meridian's legal team filed suit 2 weeks ago. You're facing $140,000 in damages, legal fees, and potential sanctions from Lockhart's Ethics Board. They take intellectual property violations seriously. You'll be expelled." My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat against my thighs. "Why am I here?" "Because I can make this go away." The words hung in the air between us. I looked at him, really looked. Tried to read his face the way I'd been trained to read actors, to spot the truth beneath the performance. But there was nothing. Just that steady, measuring gaze. In exchange for what? Information. About? My brother. The shift in the conversation felt like stepping off a curb I hadn't seen. "Julian? You've served him, spoken with him. I've made him drinks and talked about movies. Yes, that's my job. He likes you." My chest tightened. "I'm polite to all the customers. He stays later when you're working. He asks about your life. He smiles." Rafe's voice was perfectly neutral, but something underneath it made my skin prickle. "That's unusual for him." "So you dragged me up here because your brother is friendly?" I heard the edge in my own voice, fear turning sharp. "What is this?" "This is me offering you a way out of a situation that will ruin your life. By asking me to, what? Spy on him?" The word felt dirty in my mouth. "Report back on what he orders, whether he tips well?" "By asking you to pay attention when he talks to you, to remember names he mentions, places, plans." "Why me?" The question came out sharper than I intended. "You clearly have resources, security, money. Why do you need a bartender to tell you what your own brother is doing?" Something flickered across his face, not quite impatience, but close. "Because Julian doesn't talk to me. We haven't had a real conversation in 2 years. Everything between us is performance. He keeps everyone in our world at arm's length. Family, business associates, anyone connected to the Corvetti name. He learned early that people want things from him, so he stopped letting anyone close. So hire a private investigator. I have investigators. They can tell me everywhere he goes, everyone he meets, but they can't tell me what he's thinking. Whether he's being manipulated or walking into something willingly. Whether he's excited or scared or desperate. Rafe's voice stayed level, but his eyes were intense. I've watched you two, Rafe continued. He stays late when you're working. He asks about your life, your classes. He lights up when he sees you're behind the bar. That's not normal for him. Julian doesn't trust easily, but he's starting to trust you. I wanted to argue, but I remembered the way Julian had smiled at me 2 nights ago. The way he'd asked about my scene analysis like he actually cared about the answer. So you want me to exploit that? I want you to pay attention when he talks. You're a director. You're trained to read people, to notice subtext, to catch what's being said underneath the words. Julian won't realize he's revealing anything because to him, you're safe. You're just the bartender. But when he mentions a name casually or talks about a meeting like it's no big deal, you'll recognize when something doesn't fit. That's what I need. The logic was sound. I hated that it was sound. And if he's not involved in anything dangerous, then you've made a lonely man feel less alone, and I've wasted your time. His expression hardened. But if I'm right, if someone is using his resentment toward me to turn him into a weapon, then you might be the only person who can see it coming before it's too late. I stood up. My legs felt unsteady, but I forced them to hold me. No. Sit down, Miss Keller. No, I said again, louder. I don't know what kind of a family business you're running here, but I'm not interested. I'll figure out the lawsuit on my own. With what? His voice didn't rise, but it cut through my panic like a blade. You have $1,200 in your checking account. Your student loans are already at $60,000. You work 6 nights a week and still split rent 3 ways in Washington Heights. Your father hasn't returned your calls in 8 months, and your mother's in Phoenix with a new husband who made it clear you're not welcome. You have no one to borrow from and nothing to leverage. So tell me, Miss Keller, how exactly will you figure it out? The fact that he knew all of that, every humiliating detail of my small, struggling life, made me want to throw something, or cry, or both. You have no right. I have every right. You used my property without permission. You broke the law, however accidentally. And now you're standing in my office acting like you have options when we both know you don't. Then what's the point of this conversation? My voice cracked. If I don't have a choice, why bother pretending? Just tell me what you want and be done with it. Something flickered across his face. Not quite approval, but close. I want you to keep working at the glass house. Keep talking to Julian when he comes in. And when he mentions certain things. Opportunities he's excited about. New people he's meeting. Plans that seem out of character. You tell me why. Because I need to know what he's involved in. Why not just ask him yourself? Because he won't tell me. I crossed my arms, trying to hold myself together. You're his brother, if you're worried about him. This isn't about worry. This is about survival. The word landed like a stone in water. Survival. I thought about the men who came to the glass house. The ones who sat in the back booths and spoke in low voices. The ones who made the staff nervous, who got different treatment, who never seemed to pay for their drinks. I'd been working there for a few weeks, and even I could feel the weight of something dangerous underneath the polished surface. What do you think he's involved in? I asked carefully. Nothing good. That's not an answer. Rafe stood, walking around the desk. He didn't come close, just leaned, against the front of it, arms crossed. Making himself less threatening, maybe. Or maybe just tired of the performance. Julian is my older brother, he said quietly. We grew up in the same house, under the same father. Things were difficult. When our father died, I inherited the businesses, the properties, the responsibilities. Julian inherited nothing but resentment and the feeling that something was stolen from him. Was it? No, but I understand why he feels that way. Rafe's jaw tightened. Our father chose me, not because I was older or better, but because I could make the decisions he thought the family needed. Julian has never forgiven either of us for that. There are people who prey on that kind of anger. People who see a young man with a famous last name and a chip on his shoulder and think they can use him. I need to know if that's happening. And if it is, I need to stop it before it gets him killed. The last word hit me like cold water. Killed, I repeated. You think someone's going to kill your brother. I think if he's doing what I suspect he's doing, he's putting himself in a position where that becomes likely. Yes. My mouth was dry. And you want me to help you prevent that by, what? Befriending him? Pretending to care about him so I can report his every word back to you? I'm not asking you to pretend. Julian is lonely. He's angry. He's desperate to feel like he matters to someone. You don't have to fake caring about that. Just pay attention to where it leads him. That's manipulation. Yes. Again, the honesty was almost worse than a lie. And what happens when he finds out? I demanded. When he figures out that the bartender he trusted was actually working for his brother the whole time? You think that won't destroy him? It will, Rafe said calmly. But he'll be alive to be destroyed. I can live with his hatred. I can't live with his death. I turned away, pressing my palms against my temples. This was insane. A few weeks ago, I'd been worried about shot composition and whether I could afford new headshots. Now I was standing in a crime boss's office being asked to surveil his brother. I'm not a spy, I said. I don't know how to do this. You're an actor. You read people for a living. I'm a student who serves drinks. You directed a film that made a room full of strangers care about 3 characters trapped in a condemned theater with nothing but their regrets, Rafe said. You understand human behavior. You understand what people hide and why. I hated that he'd watched my film. Hated that he'd seen that much of me, my work, my vision, the things I cared about, before I'd ever known his name. This is different. How? Because it's real, I spun back to face him. Because if I do what you're asking, I'm using someone. I'm lying to someone who's already been lied to his whole life, apparently. My voice broke. I'm becoming exactly the kind of person I swore I'd never be. Rafe watched me with those dark, unreadable eyes. What kind of person is that? The kind who uses people and tells themselves it's for a good reason. The silence stretched between us. You're right, he said finally. That's exactly what I'm asking you to become. And I won't pretend it's noble or clean or anything other than what it is. Leveraging your desperation to serve my purpose. But I'm also offering you a way to keep your future. Your education, your career, everything you've worked for. So the question isn't whether this is right or wrong. The question is whether you're willing to make a choice you'll hate in order to survive. I wanted to walk out. Wanted to tell him to take his offer and his lawsuit and his dark, controlled voice and disappear. But my legs wouldn't move. Because he was right. I had $1,200 and $60,000 in debt and nowhere to go. If I say yes, I said slowly, I need things from you. His eyebrow lifted slightly. Such as? Proof the lawsuit is being withdrawn, in writing, before I tell you anything. Agreed. And I need to know what I'm listening for. You said certain things. What things? Rafe hesitated for the first time. I watched him calculate what he could tell me, what would be too much. Names, he said finally. Specific families in the city who have business conflicts with mine. If Julian mentions the Ventresi name, I need to know immediately. Ventresi, I repeated, tasting the unfamiliar word. Who are they? Competitors. In what business? The kind that doesn't get discussed in polite company. His voice hardened. You don't need details, Miss Keller. You just need to recognize the name if you hear it. And if I do? If Julian mentions these people and you find out he's involved with them, what happens to him? I handle it. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. I clenched my fists. You're asking me to trust you with information that could get your brother killed, but you won't even tell me what you plan to do with it? I'm asking you to help me save his life. What I do with that information is my problem, not yours. Except it becomes my problem when he finds out I was the one feeding you intelligence. When he realizes I stopped. The full weight of it hitting me. Oh my goodness, you're asking me to seduce him. No. Yes, you are. You want me to get close to him. Make him trust me. Make him feel like I actually care. I'm asking you to be exactly what you already are, Rafe interrupted, his voice sharp now. Someone who listens, someone who pays attention. I don't want you in his bed, Miss Keller. I want you at the bar doing your job and remembering the conversations you're already having. That's all. That's not all. You want me to manipulate him. I want you to survive. And if that means being observant and strategic, then yes. He pushed off the desk, standing to his full height. But let me be very clear, I am not asking you to sleep with him. I'm not asking you to date him or kiss him or touch him in any way you don't want to. If he makes a move and you shut it down, that's your choice. If he never makes a move at all, fine. Your job is to listen. Nothing more. And if he does make a move, I challenged, if he asks me out or tries to kiss me, what then? Then you make whatever choice feels right to you, but you don't owe him your body, Miss Keller. You don't owe anyone that. The conviction in his voice surprised me. This wasn't a manipulation tactic. He actually meant it. Why does it matter, I asked, if all you care about is the information? Because I'm not my father. The words came out hard and cold. And I won't become him by forcing a woman into something she doesn't want. You have enough leverage over you already. I won't add that to it. I studied his face, looking for the lie. But there was nothing. Just that same controlled intensity, and underneath it, something raw I couldn't name. One more thing, I said. If I do this, if the Ventressi or whoever else notices something's wrong, if Julian figures it out, I need protection. I'm not walking around this city as a target with no way to defend myself. You'll have a direct line to my security. If you feel unsafe, you call. Someone comes. Immediately. Your word? My word. I took a breath, let it out slowly. The lawsuit paperwork. When do I see it? Tomorrow afternoon. Delivered to your apartment. How do you even know where I live? He just looked at me. Right. Stupid question. I thought about my apartment. My roommates who were probably wondering why I wasn't home yet. My morning class at Lockhart where I was supposed to present my scene analysis of a streetcar named Desire. The life I'd built that was so fragile, one lawsuit could shatter it completely. Okay, I whispered. Okay? I'll do it. Something shifted in his expression, not quite relief, but the tension in his shoulders eased slightly. You start tomorrow night. Julian usually comes in around 9. Act natural. Don't push. Let him come to you. He pulled a phone from his desk drawer, small, black, expensive looking. This is yours. My number is already programmed. You text me updates. I took the phone. It was heavier than I expected. What happens to Julian when this is over? I asked quietly. When you figured out what he's involved in, I save him, however I can. Even if he hates you for it, especially then. The security guard opened the door. I walked through it, down the stairs, past the bar where I'd been mixing drinks 20 minutes ago. My coworker shot me a questioning look, but I just shook my head and grabbed my coat. Outside, the October air was sharp and cold. I walked 3 blocks before my hands stopped shaking enough to pull out the phone Rafe had given me. 1 contact, 1 number. No name, just initials. RC. I'd come to New York to tell stories, to make films that mattered, to build something that couldn't be taken away from me. Instead, I just agreed to become someone's instrument, someone's spy. The subway rattled beneath my feet as I descended into the station. Around me, the city moved. Thousands of people with their own desperate deals, their own impossible choices. I was just one more. But as I sat on the train heading back to Washington Heights, watching my reflection flicker in the dark window, I couldn't shake the image of Rafe Corvetti standing at those windows, looking out over a city he controlled but couldn't save. Or the way his voice had gone cold and hard when he'd said, I won't become him. I'd told him I was an actor. Now I'd have to prove it. The lawsuit withdrawal papers arrived at my apartment the next afternoon, hand-delivered by a man in a black suit who didn't smile or introduce himself, just handed me a manila envelope, waited while I opened it and confirmed the contents, then disappeared down the stairwell like smoke. I read every word 3 times. There was a signature page flagged with a sticky tab, my name, a release of claims, and a confidentiality clause. The last paragraph made my throat tighten. This didn't apply to reporting crimes or cooperating with law enforcement. My hand shook as I signed and sent a photo of the signature page to the number listed. Only then did it feel real. The nightmare was officially over. Complete withdrawal. Settlement paid. Full release of liability. My name cleared, my record clean. Like the whole nightmare had never happened. The price was already paid too. I just hadn't started working yet. My shift at the glass house started at 8. I arrived early, tied my hair back, checked my makeup in the staff bathroom mirror. I looked the same as I had yesterday. Same dark eyes, same careful eyeliner, same professional smile I'd practiced until it looked natural. But I felt different, like I was wearing a wire I couldn't take off. The bar filled quickly. Friday night crowd. Finance bros celebrating bonuses, couples on expensive dates, groups of women in designer dresses drinking cocktails that cost $30 each. I moved through it all on autopilot, mixing drinks, running cards, laughing at jokes that weren't funny. At 9:15, Julian Corvetti walked through the door. He looked different than I remembered, even though I'd served him just 2 nights ago. Taller, maybe. Or maybe I was just seeing him through new eyes, the eyes of someone who knew his brother was watching, who knew every word between us mattered. He took his usual seat at the end of the bar, not in the main section where the loud groups gathered, but in the quieter corner where he could see the whole room. "Evening, Julian," I said, grabbing a rocks glass. "Macallan 18, neat?" He smiled. It transformed his whole face, made him look younger, less guarded. "You remember." "It's my job to remember." I poured his scotch, set it in front of him. "How was your week?" "Long." He took a sip, closing his eyes briefly. "Yours?" "Survived midterms. Barely." "What class?" "Scene analysis. We had to break down the power dynamics in a streetcar named Desire." "Blanche versus Stanley." Julian leaned forward slightly. "Who wins?" "Nobody wins. That's the point." "Depressing." "It's Tennessee Williams. Depression is the brand." He laughed. A real laugh, not the polite chuckle most customers gave. I felt something twist in my chest. Guilt, maybe, or the sharp awareness that this man had no idea I was performing for an audience of one. "You should have been a teacher," Julian said. "You have that thing where you make complicated stuff sound simple. Teachers don't make enough to survive in New York." "Fair point." He took another drink. "So you're stuck serving me instead." "Could be worse. You tip better than the hedge fund guys." "Low bar." "You'd be surprised how many people can't clear it." The conversation felt easy, natural, like we were just 2 people talking, not a spy and her target. I hated how good I was at this, hated that the performance came so easily. Another customer signaled for a refill. I excused myself, made their drink, came back to find Julian staring at his phone with a frown. "Bad news?" I asked. He looked up, startled, then tucked the phone away. "Just work stuff. Family business." The words landed differently now. Family business. I wondered if Rafe was texting him, if they fought over messages the way normal brothers fought, or if their arguments were colder, more dangerous. "Your family runs a lot of properties, right?" I kept my voice casual, like I was just making conversation. "Real estate?" "Among other things." His expression shuddered slightly. "Why?" "Just curious. You seem stressed about it." "My brother's stressed about it. He trailed off, taking a long drink. "I'm just there." The bitterness in his voice was sharp enough to cut. "Sounds frustrating," I offered. "You have no idea." He set his glass down harder than necessary. "Sorry, I shouldn't dump this on you. It's fine. Bartenders are cheaper than therapists." That got another smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "What's your family like? Easier than mine, I hope." "Different kind of mess. My mom remarried someone who made it clear I wasn't part of the package deal. My dad stopped returning calls about a year ago. I'm basically on my own." Why was I telling him this? It wasn't part of the job. But something about the way he looked at me, like he actually saw me, not just the bartender serving his drinks, made me want to be honest about something. "I'm sorry," Julian said quietly. "That's rough." "It's fine. I'm used to it." Doesn't make it less rough. The genuine sympathy in his voice made the guilt worse. I turned away, busying myself with wiping down the already clean bar top. "Hey," Julian said. "Can I ask you something?" I looked back at him. "Sure. Why do you work here? I mean, you're in grad school, you're smart, you clearly have talent. Why the glass house specifically?" "Because it pays better than most service jobs, and the hours work with my class schedule. Because I needed money desperately enough to take the first job that would hire me. Because your brother owns it through 6 shell companies and arranged for me to be here. It's close to campus," I said instead. "And the tips are good." He studied me for a moment, like he could sense there was more to it, but he just nodded and finished his drink. "Another?" I asked. "Not tonight. I have a thing tomorrow morning. Big plans. Meeting some people, potential business partners." He pulled out his wallet, left 3 20s on the bar for a $40 drink. "Keep the change." "Julian, that's too much." "Consider it payment for the therapy session." He stood, straightening his jacket. "See you next week, Sabine." I'd never told him my name, it wasn't on my name tag, and we'd never had that kind of conversation, which meant he'd asked someone, or looked me up. The thought should have scared me. Instead, it just made the guilt dig deeper. I watched him leave, then cleared his glass and pocketed the tip. The bar was still packed, but I moved through the rest of my shift in a haze, mixing drinks and taking orders on autopilot. At 2 a.m., I clocked out and pulled out the phone Rafe had given me. "Need to talk." The response came 30 seconds later. "Tomorrow, 3 p.m., same place." I deleted both messages and went home. Over the next 2 weeks, Julian became a routine I couldn't afford to get wrong. He came in 4 times, always late, always to the quieter end of the bar, where he could watch the room without being watched. Each visit lasted longer than the last. The conversation started harmless, films, classes, the city, and then drifted into the private corners people only show when they think they're safe. Childhood stories, old disappointments dressed up as jokes, the kind of honesty that makes you forget you're collecting it. And threaded through it all were the same phrases, dropped like they meant nothing. "New opportunities," he said the first time, swirling his scotch like it held answers. "People who finally understand what I'm capable of," the second, his mouth tipping into a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. By the 3rd visit, he mentioned a meeting in Brooklyn that had gone better than expected. And I felt my stomach tighten because it sounded like someone was feeding him exactly what he needed to hear. After each shift, I reported to Rafe. Sometimes it was his office, dark wood, silence, his attention cutting through me like a blade. Sometimes it was one of his properties, too polished to feel lived in. Once it was a coffee shop in the village, where we sat in a back corner and spoke in low voices like strangers with secrets. That was the day his hand landed on mine to emphasize a point, brief, accidental in theory, and then he pulled back fast, like contact burned. I carried the warmth of it for hours anyway. The debriefs changed too. Rafe stopped keeping distance the way he used to. He stood closer when he read my messages. His jaw tightened whenever I said Julian stayed late. Whenever I mentioned Julian smiling, Julian asking about my life like it mattered. "He told me I should pursue acting full-time," I said one night, "that I have a gift for reading people." "He's not wrong," Rafe replied, voice tight. "It bothers you," I said, because I was tired of pretending I didn't see it. "That he sees that in me." For a moment he didn't answer. Then he turned toward the window like the city could give him a cleaner truth than his mouth could. "Every time you walk out that door to go back to him," he said finally, controlled and quiet, "I have to live with what I've asked you to do." The admission sat between us, heavy, intimate in a way I didn't have language for. I told myself it was tactical, professional, just strategy tightening around a dangerous problem. But the next time we met, his questions sharpened. "How much does he know?" he asked. "About you, your life, the things you want." "Enough that if he finds out I've been lying," I said, "it'll destroy him." Rafe's mouth flattened. "Does he touch you?" My breath snagged. "What?" "When you're talking," he said, too controlled. "Does he find reasons to touch your hand, your arm?" "No," I said. "He's respectful. Why does that matter?" Because the truth flashed across his face before he buried it again. "Because if he starts crossing lines," Rafe said, "I need to know." "Lines you drew," I shot back. In a game you started. His eyes met mine, dark, exhausted, furious at himself. And then the mask slid back into place. Keep doing what you're doing, he said. I'll tell you when I need you again. It was a dismissal dressed up as strategy. I left, but the conversation stayed on my skin all the way home. And then Julian showed up looking different. A few days later, I felt it for the first time. The subway platform at 2 a.m. was nearly empty. Just me, a sleeping homeless man, and the distant sound of a train approaching. I just finished my shift at the glass house, exhausted from another night of performing for Julian, when the prickle started at the base of my neck. Someone was watching me. I turned. A man in a dark jacket stood 30 feet back, phone in hand, scrolling too casually. The kind of casual that was practiced. My heart kicked into overdrive. The train pulled in. I boarded. So did he. He took a seat 3 rows behind me, still looking at his phone. Still too casual. At 125th, the doors opened. I stayed seated, pulse in my throat. He stayed on too. My hands shook as I pulled out the secure phone. Being followed. A train uptown. Not sure where to go. The response was immediate. Stay on the train. Don't get off. Don't go home. Tell me which line. The man in the dark jacket moved closer as we waited. Not threatening, just present, patient, like he had all night. At 145th Street, the doors opened. Rafe stepped on. He didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge me at all, just positioned himself between me and the man, his body a wall. The doors closed and the train lurched forward. The man's eyes flicked to Rafe. Recognition flickered across his face. Then calculation. At the next stop, the man got off. Rafe waited until the train was moving again before he turned to me. His expression was carefully blank, but something deadly moved beneath it. You okay? I nodded, not trusting my voice. That's Ventresi energy, he said quietly. Or someone trying to look like them. They're watching you now, deciding whether you're useful. How did you get here so fast? I had eyes on you from the day I pulled you into this. I told myself it was protection. Tonight proved it wasn't enough. His jaw was tight. I knew they'd start surveillance. I just didn't think it would be this soon. You've had people following me? Protecting you. There's a difference. Is there? His eyes met mine, and for once, the careful control slipped. If something had happened to you tonight, if I'd been 5 minutes slower. He stopped, ran a hand through his hair. I couldn't breathe when I got your text, but I'm fine. This time, he moved closer, voice dropping. They're escalating, which means we're running out of time. The Ventresi don't tail people for fun. They're deciding whether you're an asset or a liability. What do we do? You keep doing exactly what you've been doing. Act natural. Don't let them see you're rattled. His hand came up like he wanted to touch me, then stopped. But you don't go anywhere alone after dark anymore. You call me when you leave work. Every time. No exceptions. Rafe, I'm not losing you to this. The words came out fierce, raw. I pulled you into this world. I made you visible to them, which means keeping you safe is my responsibility. The train screeched into my stop, Washington Heights. This isn't your stop, I said. It is tonight. He stood when I did. I'm walking you to your door. We rode the elevator in silence. He positioned himself between me and the hallway, scanning like he expected threats in the stairwell. At my apartment door, I turned to face him. Thank you for coming. Always. The word was a promise, then softer. Get some sleep. We have a debrief tomorrow at 3. He waited until I was inside, door locked, before I heard his footsteps retreat down the hall. I leaned against the door, heart still hammering. This was real now. Not just theoretical danger, but actual men following me on trains. Actual threat. And Rafe had come running the second I'd asked. Something had shifted tonight. Something that made the lines between protection and caring impossible to distinguish. On a Tuesday night, 3 weeks into the arrangement, Julian showed up at the bar looking different. Lighter, almost happy. Good day, I asked, setting his usual scotch in front of him. Great day. He took a sip, savoring it. Things are finally moving forward. Work things? Life things. He leaned back, more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. You ever feel like you've been waiting your whole life for someone to see you? Actually see you, not just the version they want you to be? My chest tightened. Yeah, I have. I met someone like that. Someone who understands what it's like to be the spare part. The backup plan nobody actually wants to use. The way he said it, someone who understands, made alarm bells go off in my head. Sounds important, I said carefully. It is. He smiled, but there was something underneath it, something sharp. They're helping me build something that's mine, not just my family's leftover scraps. I kept my expression neutral, but my mind was racing. This was it. This was what Rafe had been waiting for. That's exciting, I managed. It will be. Julian finished his drink in one swallow and stood. I have to go. Meeting at 11. Late meeting. Important one. He left his usual generous tip and headed for the door, but paused halfway there. Turned back. Sabine. Yeah? You're one of the only people in this city who talks to me like I'm a person, not a liability. I want you to know that matters. Then he was gone, and I was standing behind the bar with my heart pounding and the weight of his trust crushing my chest. I pulled out the phone. Need to talk. Urgent. The response was immediate. Now. Car outside. I flagged my manager and lied fast. Family emergency. 10 minutes. She swore under her breath, waved me off, and shoved another ticket into my hand. Go. The black sedan was idling at the curb. The female security guard from before opened the back door. I slid in. Rafe was already inside, phone in hand, jaw tight. He's meeting someone at 11, I said. Tonight. He said they're helping him build something that's his. He specifically mentioned being the spare part and finding someone who understands that. Did he say where? No, just that it was important. Rafe was already texting someone. What else? He's happy. Lighter than I've ever seen him. Whoever these people are, they're telling him exactly what he needs to hear. That's what makes them dangerous. Rafe looked up from his phone. Anything else? Any detail, no matter how small? I thought back through the conversation, trying to remember every word. He said they're helping me build something. They, plural, so it's not just one person. Rafe's jaw tightened further. Good. That's good. Stay alert, Rafe said as the car pulled away. If anything feels wrong, you call me immediately. I nodded, but my mind was already racing. Julian was meeting the Ventresi tonight, and I had no idea what that meant for any of us. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Julian walking into that meeting, walking into a trap the Ventresi had set. One Rafe couldn't stop. At 7 a.m., my phone buzzed. Meeting happened. He's safe. Details tonight. 10 p.m., my office. I stared at the message. Safe. One word that should have meant everything but somehow felt hollow. I texted back, "Is he okay?" The response took 5 minutes. Yes, that was it. Like Julian's life was a checkbox on a list. I deleted the conversation, grabbed my bag, and went to class. Professor Reyes's lecture on Chekhov washed over me without landing. I took notes automatically, but inside I was somewhere else. Somewhere dark, where brothers destroyed each other and bartenders played spy. Miss Keller, I looked up. Professor Reyes was watching me with concern. Yes? I asked if you could identify the moment when Masha stops pretending. I blinked, scrambling for context. 3 sisters. Act 3. When she admits she loves Vershinin, I said. When she stops calling it anything else and just says it out loud, even though it destroys her. And why does she do that? Because she's exhausted. Because hiding takes more energy than the truth, even when the truth ruins everything. Professor Reyes nodded slowly. Exactly. Sometimes the performance becomes more unbearable than the consequence. The words followed me out of class, down the hallway, onto the subway. Sometimes the performance becomes more unbearable than the consequence. Julian came in at 9. He looked tired. Not happy like he'd been last night, but not angry either. Just drained. Rough night, I asked, setting his scotch down. You could say that. He took a long drink. Long meeting, lots of talking in circles. Business partners giving you the runaround? Something like that. He rubbed his face. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you trust people easily? The question caught me off guard. No. Why? How do you know when someone's lying to you? Like really lying, not just the polite stuff everyone does. My mouth went dry. I don't know. I guess you look for the gap between what they say and what they do. What if they're good at it? What if they've practiced? His eyes flicked, quick, sharp, to the phone I kept face down near the register, then back to me like he hadn't moved at all. I forced myself to hold his gaze. Then you probably won't catch them until it's too late. He laughed, but it was bitter. Yeah, that's what I figured. A group at the other end of the bars signaled for refills. I excused myself, made their drinks with shaking hands, came back to find Julian still staring into his scotch. Someone lied to you, I said quietly. Maybe. Or maybe I'm just paranoid. He looked up at me, and there was something searching in his expression. Do you think people can change? Like really change? Not just pretend to be different. I think people can grow. I don't know if that's the same thing. My brother used to be different when we were kids. He trailed off. Sorry, you don't need to hear this. It's okay. It's not. You're not my therapist. He finished his drink and stood. I should go. Julian, he stopped. Whatever's going on, I hope you figure it out. Something flickered in his eyes. Suspicion, maybe? Or just exhaustion? Yeah, he said. Me too. He left without tipping this time. I watched him go, my heart hammering. That conversation wasn't normal. He was testing me. The way he'd asked about lying, about trust. He knew, or he suspected. At 2 a.m., after I clocked out, I climbed the stairs to Rafe's office. He was at the windows, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. He looked exhausted. What happened at the meeting? I asked. He met with Elio Ventresi and 2 associates. Brooklyn restaurant, private room. My people were outside but couldn't hear anything. That meeting was sealed up, but we've been building the larger case, financial trails, timestamps, and recordings from other points of contact. Did they hurt him? No, it was cordial. They bought him dinner, drove him home afterward. That's good, right? That means they're still courting him, still grooming him to betray us. How do you know that's what they're doing? Because that's what they do. He turned to face me. The Ventresi don't want Julian for his skill. They want him because he's a Corvetti, because using him destabilizes my authority. And before you ask, I've had a federal contact on standby for months. Warrants were drafted weeks ago. We just needed a controlled meet with Elio on camera to trigger the takedown. So what's your plan? Carefully, he moved to his desk. I need you to keep listening. If he mentions another meeting, he knows. Rafe went still. What? Tonight. He asked me about lying, about how to tell when someone's good at it. He was testing me, Rafe. He suspects something. The silence was suffocating. What did you say? I tried to play it off, but he left without tipping and barely looked at me. My voice was rising. He knows someone's watching him. Rafe's jaw was tight. That could just mean the Ventresi warned him. Or it could mean he's figured out the bartender he trusted is reporting to his brother. I was almost shouting now. What happens when he confirms it? When he tells the Ventresi? Then we adjust. Adjust? That's your answer. I slammed my hand on his desk. I'm not a chess piece, Rafe. I'm a person. And if Julian figures out what I've been doing, he's going to hate me. The Ventresi are going to see me as a liability. What do you want me to say? His voice was hard now. That I didn't think this through? Fine. You're right. This is messy and dangerous, and I don't have perfect answers. But I'm doing everything I can to keep both of you alive. You're using me to spy on your brother and telling yourself it's for his own good. It is for his own good. Then why does it feel like everyone's getting destroyed? The question hung between us, raw and unanswerable. Rafe leaned against his desk, suddenly looking as exhausted as I felt. What do you want me to do, Sabine? Pull you out? Let the Ventresi win? I want you to talk to him. Your brother. Actually talk to him. I've tried. He won't listen. Because you're treating him like an enemy instead of family, I stepped closer. He's your older brother. He should have inherited. But your father chose you instead. And Julian's been living in that shadow his entire adult life. You want to know why the Ventresi's manipulation works? Because they're telling him the truth. He was passed over. He was deemed less than. I didn't choose this. Rafe's voice was dangerously quiet. I didn't ask to be the one our father trusted. But I also can't change it. The choice was made. No. Now you both have to live with what it's doing to him. And to you. What's it doing to me? Turning you into exactly what you said you'd never become. Someone who controls people because he thinks it's the only way to keep them safe. I took another step closer. You said you weren't your father, but you're manipulating Julian the same way. You're taking away his agency and calling it protection. Rafe's expression was unreadable, but something in his eyes looked almost like pain. He's testing me, I said, voice tight. He's asking about lies, about trust. That isn't normal conversation. He's trying to confirm something. Rafe's jaw flexed. Then the Ventrisi coached him. Or he's connecting patterns on his own. Either way, I said, the next move lands on me. Rafe took one step closer, then stopped like he was restraining instinct. Then we changed the board. My phone buzzed. The regular one, not the secure line. I pulled it out, and my blood ran cold. Unknown number. I know who you are, Sabine. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Prospect Park, by the boathouse. Come alone, no security. If I see a tail, I send Julian proof of what you've been doing. My fingers shook as I typed a reply from my regular phone. Okay, 2 p.m. I needed them relaxed, certain I was obedient. I showed Rafe the message without speaking. His face went white, then hard as stone. Elio Ventrisi, he said. He's trying to flip you. Or kill me. No. If they wanted you dead, you'd already be gone. They want to use you. He pulled out his own phone. You're not going. Yes, I am. Sabine. If I don't show up, they'll assume I'm working with you. They'll tell Julian, and then everything falls apart anyway. You don't control anything. They do. Then I guess we're all equally powerless. I pocketed my phone. I'm going. This is not a negotiation. Neither was the lawsuit. Neither was any of this. I headed for the door. Sabine. I stopped but didn't turn around. Okay, he said, voice low and tight. You go in alone. No tail, no shadow. But I'm still coming. Rafe. Somewhere you can't see me, he cut in. Separate route. Outside their sightline. Close enough to reach you fast if you so much as breathe wrong. If anything happens to you, his voice caught. If they hurt you because of what I asked you to do, then I guess you'll have to live with that too, I said. Just like everything else, I didn't go home, couldn't face my roommates. Instead, I rode the subway until 3 a.m., then found myself outside the glass house. I let myself in and sat at the bar where Julian always sat and stared at the bottles behind the glass. My hands shook so badly I couldn't have poured anything even if I wanted to. Tomorrow I'd meet with the Ventresi. They'd offer me money or protection to betray Rafe, unless I stopped letting other people write my script. I pulled out both phones and stared at them. I was the only person Julian might actually believe if I told him the truth. The whole truth. But the Ventresi had my number. If they were watching my phone, one message to Julian could get him killed, or get me disappeared before 2 p.m. I walked 3 blocks to a bodega that sold prepaid burners, paid cash, and activated it on the sidewalk with shaking hands. My hands were shaking as I texted Julian. Julian, it's Sabine. The Ventresi contacted me. I need to tell you something in person. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., the Bethel Theater on East 6th. Come alone, please. The response came 5 minutes later. How do you know about the Ventresi? That's what I need to tell you. Just you and me. 1 hour to tell you the truth. Long pause. If this is some kind of setup, it's not. I swear. I'm done with setups. I'm done lying. Just give me 1 hour. 10 a.m., I'll be there. Then I texted Rafe. I'm not going to the Ventresi meeting. I'm meeting Julian first. I'm telling him everything. The lawsuit, the deal, all of it. Don't try to stop me. His response was immediate. Sabine, don't do this. This whole thing is falling apart, and the only way to save any of it is to stop playing by your rules and start playing by mine. Either trust me or watch it all burn down. I silenced the secure phone before he could respond. At 10 a.m., I was waiting at the Bethel Theater when Julian arrived. He looked wary, guarded, but he'd come alone. Nice location, he said. Very dramatic. I'm a film student. Dramatic is kind of my thing. Is this where you tell me you're actually an undercover cop? No, I stood up. This is where I tell you that your brother hired me to spy on you because he's terrified the Ventresi are going to get you killed. Julian went completely still. 3 weeks ago, Rafe called me into his office, I continued. I was being sued for using property his family owned in my student film. $140,000 I didn't have. He offered to make it go away if I would report back on your conversations with me at the bar. You're lying. I'm not. I wish I was. I showed him the text thread with Rafe. He gave me a secure phone. I texted him, updates. And I told him everything you said to me because I was desperate and scared, and he had a gun to my future. Julian's face was white. Why are you telling me this? Because the Ventresi contacted me yesterday. They want to meet with me this afternoon. And I realized I'm done being everyone's asset. I'm done lying, so I'm giving you the truth, and then you get to decide what to do with it. He laughed, hollow. The truth, right. Because you've been so honest with me. I haven't. You're right. But not about everything, Julian. When I said you deserved better than being treated like you don't matter, I meant that. When I listened to you talk about feeling invisible, that wasn't performance. That was me seeing you. While reporting every word back to my brother. Yes, I didn't flinch. Both things are true. I lied about who I was working for, but I didn't lie about respecting you. Julian walked further into the theater. Why should I believe anything you say now? Because I have nothing to gain from telling you this. The only reason I'm here is because all three of us are being used by people who care more about power than what happens to us. And I'm the only one who can show you the whole board. What board? The Ventresi don't want to help you. They want to use you to destroy Rafe's credibility. Once you've served that purpose, they're going to dispose of you. And you know this how? Because I've spent 3 weeks watching you get happier talking about these people, and I've seen this pattern before. I sat back down. I had a professor who told me I had real talent, made me feel like I finally mattered. Then he needed someone to take the fall for a grant fraud and set me up. The Ventresi are doing the same thing to you. Julian was listening now, arms crossed. Here's what I know, I continued. They've been courting you for at least 2 months. Elio Ventresi is your main contact. They've offered you some kind of role, but haven't given you real control yet. They keep talking about when the time is right. They're stringing you along while extracting information about Corvetti operations. His jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. They're weaponizing your grief, I said quietly. Your legitimate anger at being passed over. They're taking real wounds and infecting them. So what do you want me to do? Go back to Rafe and pretend everything's fine? No, I want you to control the situation for once. I pulled out my phone. The Ventresi want to meet with me at 2 p.m. today. What if we let them think it worked? What if I tell them I'm done with Rafe, and instead of giving them real intelligence, I feed them exactly what you and Rafe want them to hear? Julian frowned. You're talking about a double cross. I'm talking about you and Rafe working together for once, with me as the messenger both sides think they control. Julian was quiet, thinking. Why would Rafe agree to this? Because you're going to call him, right now, and tell him that I told you everything, and that instead of running to the Ventresi, you're willing to help set a trap. You're betting a lot on him wanting to work with me. I'm betting on him being desperate enough to try anything that keeps you alive. I held out my phone. Call him, or don't. But if you walk out of here and go to the Ventresi without a plan, they're going to kill you eventually. Julian stared at the phone. If I do this, he's going to want control. So negotiate. Tell him what you need in exchange for cooperation. A real role, respect, whatever you actually want. And what do you get out of this? I get to stop lying to both of you, and maybe nobody dies. Julian took the phone. He hit call. It rang twice. It's me, Julian said. I'm with Sabine at the Bethel Theater. She told me everything, and we need to talk. Actually talk. No, just you. No security. If we're doing this, we're doing it without an audience. 20 minutes. He hung up and handed me back the phone. He's coming. Good. We stood there in the abandoned theater, waiting. "Can I ask you something?" Julian said. "Sure." "When you said you saw me, did you mean that? Or was that part of the performance?" I met his eyes. "I meant it. You're lonely and angry, and you deserved better than to be used by me or the Ventrisi or anyone else. Both things are true, the lying and the seeing." He nodded slowly. "That's the most honest thing anyone said to me in years." 15 minutes later, we heard a car pull up. Footsteps. Rafe appeared in the doorway, alone. He looked at Julian first, then at me. "I'm here," he said. "Now what?" Julian and I exchanged a glance. "Now we stop letting the Ventrisi write the ending," Julian said, "and we figure out how to write our own." The three of us stood in that ruined theater like actors who'd forgotten their lines. Rafe looked at Julian, then at me, his expression carved from stone. "You told him." "I told him everything," I said. "The lawsuit, the deal, the reports, all of it. And yet he called me instead of the Ventresi. Why?" "Because she gave me something they never did," Julian said. "The truth, and a choice about what to do with it." Rafe's jaw tightened. "The truth, after weeks of lying to you." "She was lying because you forced her to," Julian shot back. "Don't act like you have moral high ground here. I was trying to keep you alive, by treating me like an asset to manage, instead of a person who deserves to know when he's in danger." They stared at each other across 10 feet of dusty floor, years of resentment crackling in the space between them. "Stop," I said. Both of them looked at me. "We don't have time for this. The Ventrisi expect me at 2 p.m. That gives us less than 4 hours to figure out what I'm going to tell them." "Walk me through it," Rafe said, moving closer. He positioned himself so he could see both me and the door, that protective instinct I'd noticed before, operating on autopilot. Over the next hour, we planned. I'd go to the meeting, tell Elio I knew Rafe had been using me, offer to work for them instead. Julian would stay in contact with the Ventrisi, pretending to still be their asset while actually working with Rafe. And I'd feed them information, real enough to be credible, useless enough that it couldn't hurt us. "They'll test you," Julian warned. "Elio will want proof." "Then we give him something real," Rafe said. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through a calendar. "There's a meeting Thursday night. Legitimate business. If Sabine gives Elio the location and time, and it checks out, he'll believe she has real access. Then we change the location last minute." "And the endgame?" I asked. "We use you to walk them into exposing themselves," Rafe said. "Financial crimes, operational details, something that ruins them legally or destroys their standing." "I've been building a paper trail for months," Rafe continued. "I have a federal contact who's been waiting for something clean. Recordings, dates, numbers. This is how we give it to them. My federal contact will have a team staged nearby, close enough to move the second Elio takes the bait." Julian nodded slowly. "It could work, but Sabine's taking all the risk." "I know." Rafe's voice was tight. His eyes found mine, and I saw something raw flicker across his face before he controlled it. "Which is why if anything feels wrong, you walk away. And if he doesn't let me, then you call me, immediately." His hand moved like he wanted to reach for me, then stopped. "And we come get you." I watched him fight the urge to close the distance between us, saw the way his fingers curled into a fist at his side. "What happens to Julian when this is over?" I asked. "When you've figured out what he's involved in?" "That's what we need to discuss," Rafe said, looking at his brother. "What do you actually want? Not what the Ventresi promised you. What do you want?" Julian was quiet for a long moment. "I want to matter. I want a real role with real authority. Not token positions where everyone knows you're actually pulling the strings. I want to be consulted before decisions that affect me are made. I want—" His voice cracked slightly. "I want to feel like I'm your brother, not your liability." Rafe's expression shifted. Not quite guilt, but something close. "I can do that," he said quietly. "I can give you operational authority over legitimate business, the real estate holdings, the licensing companies, actual responsibility. And I'll stop making decisions about you without talking to you first. And if I screw up, then we fix it, together, the way we should have been doing all along." Julian's throat worked. "You mean that?" "I do." They stared at each other, and something decades old seemed to crack between them. "Okay," Julian said finally. "I'm willing to try." Rafe extended his hand. Julian stared at it for a moment, then shook it. The gesture was formal, careful, but it was real. I felt like I was watching something essential shift. Two men trying to build a bridge across years of damage. "The meeting with Elio," Rafe said, turning back to me. "Walk me through exactly what you'll say." We spent another hour refining every detail. What I'd tell Elio, how I'd frame my supposed betrayal of Rafe, what information I could offer as proof. At one point, Rafe stood close to review something on my phone, his arm brushing mine. The contact was brief, but electric. I saw his jaw tighten, saw him force himself to maintain that careful distance, even though something in his eyes said he wanted to eliminate it entirely. Julian caught it too. I saw his gaze flick between us, something knowing in his expression. At 1:30, Rafe called for a car. "Borrowed vehicle, clean plates," he said. "The Ventressi will be watching for tails." "And you two?" "We'll be close. Not visible, but close." He looked at Julian. "That okay?" Julian nodded. "But we stay out of sight unless something goes wrong." The car arrived, a nondescript sedan. Before I got in, Rafe caught my wrist. His grip was warm, firm, deliberate. "If anything feels wrong, if Elio pushes too hard or asks for something you're not comfortable giving, you walk away. And if he doesn't let me, then you call me." His thumb brushed the inside of my wrist, just once, and I saw his eyes darken. "And I will come for you. Do you understand?" It wasn't tactical. It was personal, possessive in a way that made my pulse jump. "I understand." He held on a moment longer than necessary, then let go like it cost him something. Julian was watching from a few feet away. When Rafe stepped back, something complicated flickered across Julian's face. Not quite jealousy, more like recognition. Like he was seeing something he hadn't expected but maybe should have. "I'll be fine," I said, more to both of them than just Rafe. "This is just another performance." "It's not, though," Rafe said quietly. "When you're performing, the stakes are pretend. This is real." "I know." I got in the car before either of them could see how much his words affected me. Prospect Park was beautiful in the afternoon light. Families, couples, joggers, normal people living normal lives. Elio Ventressi was waiting on a bench near the water, younger than I'd expected, handsome in a calculated way. He smiled when he saw me. "Sabine, thank you for coming." I sat, keeping space between us. "How did you get my number?" "The same way I know you've been reporting on Julian Corvetti to his brother for 3 weeks. Rafe used your desperation to turn you into his spy, and I'm willing to bet Julian either already knows or he's about to. Either way, you're compromised." My mouth was dry. This was it. "What kind of protection?" "The kind that ensures neither Julian nor Rafe can touch you." He pulled out a phone, showed me a bank account. $50,000, half now, half later, plus relocation assistance. It was too good, which meant they didn't plan on paying the second half. "What kind of information are you looking for?" "Meeting locations, names, financial movements. The kinds of things someone in your position would naturally overhear." I let the silence stretch, like I was genuinely considering it. "There's a meeting Thursday night," I said slowly, like the words were being pulled out against my will. "Rafe was on the phone about it this morning. Something about a construction deal. The glass house, private room, 9 p.m., Meridian Holdings." Elio's smile widened. "See? That wasn't so hard. I'll verify that information. If it checks out, the first payment hits your account tonight. And if it doesn't check out, then we'll have a very different conversation." The warmth drained from his voice. "I'd recommend being accurate, Sabine. We don't respond well to people who waste our time." He walked away. I sat there for 5 more minutes, hands shaking. Then I texted Rafe. "Done. He bought it." "They're pushing for operational details," I told Rafe and Julian at a safe house one night. "Elio wants to know about a shipment next month." He's getting impatient. We were sitting around a kitchen table, papers spread between us. Planning sessions had become routine, but the dynamic had shifted. Rafe and Julian were actually collaborating now, building off each other's ideas, listening instead of competing. Then we give him what he wants, Rafe said. We stage a meeting. Make it look like a major deal, enough that the Ventrisi will want to move on it themselves. How? I asked. Julian leaned forward. We make them think they're getting real intelligence about a big shipment. When they move on it, we document everything. Then we feed that to the right people. The FBI, I said. Or their rivals, Rafe added. Either way, they're finished. And Julian, I asked, if the Ventrisi go down, they'll know someone betrayed them. Not if it looks like they betrayed themselves, Julian said. If their own greed gets them caught, there's no trail back to me. It was brilliant and terrifying. When? I asked. Saturday, Rafe said. 1 week from now. Over the next few days, I met Elio twice more, each time feeding him pieces of the puzzle. His confidence grew with each meeting. You're doing well, he told me Wednesday afternoon. Saturday is important. If this plays out right, you'll have earned your full payment, plus a bonus. What kind of bonus? The kind that sets you up for life. His smile was cold. Or you can take your money and disappear. I knew what he meant. Stay and become permanent. Or leave and hope they never needed to silence me. I'll think about it. Friday night, Rafe called me to the safe house for a final briefing. When I arrived, Julian was already there. Jacket on, keys in hand. The look on his face too calm for someone who'd just helped dismantle a war. He glanced at me, then at Rafe, and something knowing passed through his expression, like he'd seen the tension between us tightening for weeks, and decided he didn't want to stand in the middle of it. I'll give you 2 a minute, he said lightly. I need to make some calls anyway. Then he was gone, the door shutting behind him with a soft click that somehow sounded louder than it should have. Rafe didn't move for a moment. He stood across the kitchen, hands braced on the back of a chair like he needed the wood to keep him steady. The overhead light was too bright for the way his eyes looked, dark, tired, and stripped of the usual distance. Tomorrow night, he said finally. Red Hook, everything's in place. And I'm supposed to stay away, I replied. Safe in the background. Yes. His jaw tightened. That's not negotiable. I let out a short laugh that wasn't funny. You've said that before. His gaze flicked to mine, sharp, immediate. Sabine. I'm not arguing, I said, but the words came out rough anyway. I'm just trying to understand how we got here. Rafe's throat worked like he was swallowing something bitter. You got here because I dragged you, he said, flat and honest. And I'm done dragging you. My chest tightened. What does that mean? He nodded toward the secure phone lying on the counter. Black, silent, heavy with everything it represented. This ends tonight, he said. Not the Ventrisi situation, the leverage, the deal, all of it. I stared at him. Rafe! Leave it, he continued, voice controlled but strained at the edges. Walk out. Block my number. You're free. Your lawsuit is gone either way. Your name is clean. Your future is yours again. The air in the kitchen shifted, like the whole world had leaned in to listen. And if I stay? I asked quietly. His eyes didn't flinch, but something in them did. Something human. Then it's because you chose it, he said. No debt attached, no fear attached, no pressure. I took a slow breath. You're saying that now. I'm saying it because it should have been true from the beginning. His voice went harder for a second, anger aimed inward. I used your desperation like a weapon. I told myself it was necessary. I told myself it was the only way to keep Julian alive. And now? I asked. Now I'm done pretending I can justify it. He looked away for a moment, like the window might offer a cleaner answer than his own mouth. You deserved better than the way I brought you into this. The apology hit deeper than I expected, because it wasn't polished, it wasn't strategic, it was real. I stepped closer, not too fast, not dramatic. Just one careful step, like I was approaching something that could either save me or burn me. You can't undo what happened, I said, but you can stop choosing for me. His gaze snapped back to mine. That's what I'm doing, he said. And his voice was rough now, the control slipping in a way that made my pulse jump. I'm giving you the clean exit you should have had weeks ago. Silence stretched. Then I said, I'm not leaving. Rafe went still. For 1 second, it looked like he didn't believe me. like he'd built his whole moral survival on the idea that I'd walk away the moment I had the chance. "You don't mean that," he said quietly. "I do." My voice steadied. "When I told Julian the truth, when I chose to meet him first, when I walked into Prospect Park and looked Elio Ventresi in the face, that wasn't you controlling me. That was me choosing." His eyes searched mine like he was trying to find the lie. If he found it, he didn't say. "You should go," he said. And the words sounded like they hurt to say. "It's smarter." "I know," I replied. "But I'm tired of living my life based on what's smartest for everyone else." His breath came out slow. "And if you stay," he said, "I need you to understand something." I didn't speak. I just waited. His gaze dropped briefly to the counter, the phone, the evidence of everything he'd done. Then he looked back up. "If you stay," he said, voice low, "it won't be because I asked you to. It'll be because you want to. And I—" He stopped, jaw tightening like he was fighting the rest of the sentence. "I won't touch you unless you make it unmistakably clear that you want that too." The line wasn't a performance. It was a boundary, a promise. My throat tightened. "Rafe." He moved then, slowly, like he was giving me time to step away. He stopped close enough that I could feel the warmth of him, close enough that his presence filled the space between breaths, but he didn't reach for me. He waited. I lifted a hand and touched his wrist, just that. Not pulling, not demanding, just anchoring. "I'm here," I whispered, "and I'm not confused." His eyes closed for a brief second, like the words took something out of him. Then his hand rose, careful, controlled, and he cupped my face like it mattered whether his touch felt safe. "Tell me to stop," he murmured. "I won't," I said. And when he kissed me, it wasn't frantic or messy. It was restrained at first, like he was still trying to behave like the man who always knew how to hold the line, until he exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. And the restraint gave way to something quieter and more dangerous: relief. We broke apart, foreheads touching. "This changes things," he said, voice rough. "I know," I whispered. His thumb brushed my cheek once, gentle, almost disbelieving. "After tomorrow," he said, "you still get a choice." "I'll still want one," I said, because I needed him to say it out loud. "You'll always have one," he replied. And the promise sounded like a vow he didn't deserve but intended to. Keep anyway. We didn't label it. Not yet. It was too soon for words that big. But we stayed there, close, quiet, breathing the same air, until the fear in my body eased enough to unclench. We didn't go any further. When the lights went out, we just slept, fully clothed, close, safe. He held me like he was trying to memorize proof that I was safe. "I'm sorry," he said into the dark. "I know," I answered, and meant it. "But don't apologize and then go back to controlling everything." His jaw flexed. "I won't." "You promise?" A beat. Then, firm. "I promise." I believed him, not because he was good, but because he was finally choosing to be. And for the first time since this started, sleep came like permission. The next morning, everything went wrong. At 8 a.m., Elio texted. "Change of plans. I need you at the warehouse. Rafe might recognize our people. You're the distraction." My blood ran cold. I called Rafe immediately. "They want me there." "No, absolutely not. If I don't show up, they'll know something's wrong." "Sabine, I'm going. You can have people close, but I'm going." The silence was suffocating. Then, "I'll be there. Close enough to get to you in 30 seconds. But if anything goes wrong, I know." The warehouse was dark, cold, exactly as ominous as expected. I arrived at 9, heart hammering. Elio was waiting with 2 other men. Behind them, more figures in the shadows. They'd brought backup. "Sabine," Elio smiled. "Right on time. You said you needed a distraction." I lied. I needed leverage. He pulled out a gun, not pointed at me, just held casually. "Rafe Corvetti's been too careful lately. Won't meet, won't negotiate. But I've been watching you. Watching how his security tightens whenever you're working at the glass house. How his people track your movements home. You matter to him somehow, so you're going to call him, tell him you're in trouble, and when he comes running, we'll finally have our conversation about territory." My mouth went dry. So here's what's going to happen, Elio continued. You're going to call Rafe Corvetti, tell him you're in trouble, and when he comes running, we're going to have a conversation about territory and respect. I don't call him, now, or I shoot you in the knee and call him with you screaming. My hands were shaking as I pulled out my phone. I dialed Rafe. He answered on the first ring. Sabine? They know, I said. It's a trap. Don't. Elio took the phone. Hello, Rafe. I have something of yours. You have 10 minutes to get here, alone, or she starts losing pieces. He hung up. Now we wait, Elio said. 8 minutes later, the warehouse door opened. Rafe walked through alone. Elio's smile returned, satisfied. Good. You can follow instructions. You told her come alone, Rafe said. And you brought 6 men. Don't pretend you're playing fair. A voice came from the shadows near the side. Entrance, steady, cold. He came alone. I didn't. Elio's smile faltered. Julian. Elio recovered quickly. Good. Saves me hunting you down later, since you seem to have chosen sides. I chose not to be your puppet, Julian said. There's a difference. Elio laughed. You really think working together changes anything? I have 6 men in this warehouse, and evidence of Corvetti crimes gets sent out Monday morning. Automatic drop. Multiple recipients. Are we? Rafe pulled out his phone, hit a button. Because I have 3 federal agents listening to this conversation right now, along with recordings of every illegal transaction your family has made in the past 6 months. And your automatic drop? My tech team traced it an hour ago. The recipients and the route are already in federal hands. It's not going anywhere. Elio's face went white. The trap wasn't for us, Julian said. It was for you. Every meeting Sabine reported, documented. Every conversation you had with me, recorded. Every financial transaction, tracked. You're bluffing. Am I? Rafe glanced down at his phone and hit a button. The doors behind Elio burst open. Federal agents flooding in, badges up, weapons drawn. It happened fast. Agents moving in, reading rights, the Ventresi men realizing too late they'd been outplayed. Elio looked at me as they cuffed him. You played me. You set yourself up, I said. I just gave you the rope. They dragged him away. And then it was just the 3 of us in that empty warehouse. Is it over? I asked. The Ventresi? Yes, Rafe said. The fallout will take time, but the immediate threat is done. Julian looked at his brother. You could have kept me out of this. Could have claimed I was their victim. I could have, but that would have been a lie. Rafe's voice was rough. You were crucial to this. Your intelligence, your insight. I couldn't have done it without you. Julian's throat worked. So what now? Now we rebuild. Properly. With you actually involved, not sidelined. They shook hands again, less formal this time, more real. Julian looked at me. I'm going to give you 2 a minute. He walked away, leaving Rafe and me alone. Rafe crossed the space between us in 3 strides. Are you hurt? His hands were on my shoulders, scanning me for injuries. Did he touch you? I'm fine. Scared, but fine. I'm going to... He stopped. Took a breath. When he took that phone from you, when he threatened you, I couldn't breathe. But you came anyway, you and Julian both. Of course I came. Did you think I'd leave you? His hand slid from my shoulders to my face, cradling it. You could have died because of me, because I pulled you into this world. I chose to stay in it, I reminded him. That was me choosing. Why? Because somewhere along the way, this stopped being about survival. It became about you, about us. He kissed me then, desperate, relieved, full of everything we'd almost lost. When we broke apart, he pressed his forehead to mine. Come home with me, he said. Not to a safe house, home. And what happens tomorrow? Tomorrow we figure out what this is, what we are. But tonight I just need to know you're safe. With me. Okay. His actual home was a penthouse in Tribeca. More personal than anywhere else I'd seen. Books, photographs, the comfortable mess of someone who actually lived there. He didn't let the distance breathe. His mouth found mine again, urgent, like relief had turned into hunger. We barely made it through the door before he pulled me close, like he needed proof I was real and still here. His hands were careful even when his control wasn't. And when he asked if I was really okay, I answered him with the only language that made sense in that moment, pulling him closer, choosing him back. He walked me backward until my spine hit the wall. His hands found my waist, my hips, pulling me close. "Tell me you're really okay," he said against my throat. "I'm okay, I promise." The rest of the night disappeared into urgency and gratitude, two people trying to outrun what almost happened. And when we finally slowed enough to breathe, he held me like he was terrified the world could take me again. "I meant what I said earlier," he murmured. His thumb traced my cheekbone, gentle like it didn't belong to a man like him. "About you having a choice, always." I held his gaze. "And you." His jaw tightened. "I want you here, with me. Not because you're trapped, not because you owe me, because you choose it. And if I don't?" The honesty in his expression hurt. "Then I'll let you go." A pause. "And I'll hate it, but I'll let you go." I kissed him once, slow, deliberate. "I'm not leaving." His eyes closed like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. "Say that again." "I'm not leaving," I repeated. And this time it sounded like a vow. "You're sure? Because this world, my world, it's not going to get easier or safer." "I know, but I've seen what I can do in it. How I can use everything I learned about reading people and directing scenes for something real. For stakes that matter." I traced the line of his jaw. "And I've seen who you really are, under all the control and the carefully maintained distance. You're trying so hard not to be your father, and you're succeeding." His eyes closed briefly. "You make me want to be better." He stared at me like he didn't trust good things to stay. Then his voice dropped, stripped of control. "I love you," he said, quiet, steady, like he'd decided to stop running from the truth. My throat tightened. I didn't joke this time. I didn't deflect. "Say it again," I whispered. His mouth brushed my forehead. "I love you." And something in my chest finally unclenched, because it wasn't just the words, it was everything underneath them. The way he'd drawn a line, even when he had every advantage. The way he'd said I won't become him and meant it. The way he looked ready to burn the world down the second anyone pointed a weapon in my direction. "I know," I breathed, the smallest tremble in my voice. Then, softer, honest enough to hurt. "I've known. I figured it out somewhere around the 10th time you looked like you wanted to murder someone for threatening me." His exhale hitched, half a laugh, half pain. "Sabine." "I'm serious," I murmured, lifting my gaze to his. "I know because you didn't take what you could have taken. You didn't push where you could have pushed. You let me choose, over and over." His hand tightened at my waist like he was holding on to something sacred. And I finally let myself breathe. "I love you too." In the morning, Julian called. "The feds are moving forward with charges," he said. "It's going to make headlines. They want statements from all of us." "We'll be there," Rafe said. "Also, I talked to the family about a new role for me, real authority. And they agreed. Apparently taking down the Ventresi earned me some credibility." There was a pause. "Thank you for trusting me, for seeing me as more than just your problem." "You were never a problem," Rafe said. "I just lost sight of that." After they hung up, Rafe came back to bed. "What happens now?" I asked. "With everything. Now you go to class. I handle the fallout with the family and the feds. Julian starts his new role, and we figure out how to build something real out of all this mess." "And me?" I asked. "What's my role in all this?" "Whatever you want it to be." He brushed hair from my face. "But first, there's the matter of compensation." "Compensation? You did actual intelligence work, risked your life. That deserves more than just having a lawsuit disappear." His expression was serious. "I've had my accountant set up an account. Enough to finish your degree without working 6 nights a week. Enough to focus on your films." My throat tightened. "Rafe, it's not charity, you earned it. And I won't have you staying with me because you can't afford to leave." His voice softened. "When you choose this, choose me. I need to know it's real." I thought about my checking account, the constant calculation of rent and groceries and whether I could afford new headshots. The weight of that desperation that had made me vulnerable to his original offer. "Okay," I said quietly. "Thank you." Don't thank me for paying what you're owed. I kissed him then, slow and deep, tasting both the complexity and the simplicity of it. He'd given me back my choice, the real kind, the kind that only existed when survival wasn't on the line. Sounds complicated, I said when we broke apart. Probably, but worth it. He pulled me closer. You're worth it. Outside, the city woke up. Millions of people making choices, taking risks, finding ways to survive and love and keep breathing. We were just two more, but we were choosing each other. Consciously, completely, with open eyes and full hearts. I'd come to New York to tell stories, to make films that mattered. Instead, I'd lived one. Dark and messy and more complicated than anything I could have scripted. But it was ours, and that, I decided, was enough. Thank you for watching to the end. If you liked this video, kindly subscribe and tell me where you're listening from. I appreciate all your feedback. The kind words mean a lot, and the critical notes help me improve. For the critical feedback, I kindly ask that it be constructive and specific so I can make the next one even better for you.